What's up, everybody? So this is my old school review of the classic Jean-Claude Van Damme movie Kickboxer, which came out in 1989, directed by David Worth, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme. This is, I think, the third, maybe even fourth movie that he released. This is like, hot off the presses of, hot off the heels of Bloodsport, and he really started making his name now because Bloodsport was a pretty huge success, and then everything that came out afterwards, he just kept kind of building and building and had this great momentum going up until about the mid-90s. But this is another one of those fun popcorn revenge martial arts movies. It has those classic tropes, but still has that, Jean-Claude Van Damme flavor to it. The premise is pretty simple. He is kind of like the training partner, brother of a champion kickboxer. And in real life, the guy, I forget his name, but he actually was a champion kickboxer, a really, really good one. He wants to fight the best fighters in the world, and he decides that we're gonna go to Thailand and do just that. Of course, he didn't do much research at the time because kickboxing and Muay Thai are two completely different sports, even though they might in some ways look alike. He fights the champion, Tong Po, and gets badly injured. He breaks his back in the fight. And Van Damme's character, Jake Sloane, wants to learn the art of Muay Thai so that hopefully soon he can take out his revenge on Tong Po. It's basically that simple. And I think the thing that is really, really great about the movie is that there's no complications to it. Now, as far as the execution of the story, it's not that great, to be very honest with you. I think half of the movie is a training montage. And even the training itself, if you know anything about martial arts or combat sports, resembles nothing of Muay Thai. It's just kind of Van Damme doing what Van Damme does. Those crazy jumping, spinning kicks, the splits. For some reason, even though he's never really trained in this sport before, out of the gate, he's just ripped. He's fully Van Damme. It just feels like they're trying to slowly build up to, the moment he takes off his shirt and he's looking pumped and he's just a complete badass in the sport and art of Muay Thai. So that's kind of the thing that, looking back on it, watching it again is like, you can see how they're like, okay, no, we have to wait. We got to wait a little bit until we, do the reveal that, now he's a good fighter. Whereas before he kind of knew a little something, but he was very unrefined and not the level of fighter that you see at the end. And without, giving away too many spoilers, I think probably the aspect of the movie that is most memorable is the final fight scene, because I don't even know if this is real or not. I didn't do any research, but the final fight scene is, going to be in this, what they say in the movie is like the traditional Muay Thai way of fighting, in which they wrap their hands in rope, they dip your hands in glue, and then you put broken glass on it, and that's how you fight each other. Apparently in loincloths as well, and then there's fire around, and it all seemed just very, very kind of silly, but par for the course when you think about, okay, we got a final fight scene. How are we going to make this memorable and unique in some way, shape, or form? And so that's how it is. A couple of standout performances is the man who basically, in some ways, kind of takes pity on Jean-Claude Van Damme's character, this American expat who, after the Vietnam War, just basically never went home and stayed in Southeast Asia, went from Vietnam to Thailand. And he is like I would say the best character in the movie. He provides some comic relief. Forgive me, I forget the actor's name, but his line deliveries are just great. You know, they're funny, they're memorable, and you know, you kind of really appreciate his role in Van Damme's path, you can say. And there's this great scene where, you know, they're at a strip club, as I guess you do when you're in Thailand, in this movie, and he's telling the story of why he's helping him, you know, and he tells this really kind of not emotional story, but it does kind of grip you as to something that happened to him in the Vietnam War and how he thought, like, I'm never going to let anything like this happen again. Like, if there is a moment where I can help somebody, I'm going to do it. I'm also just going to be at these crazy places while I do it, you know. Some other interesting notes about the movie is the character of Tong Po. He's really up there as like a great villain in these types of martial arts movies, in this genre. Chong Li, who's the main bad guy in Bloodsport, you know, he's does a great job. You know, Bolo Yin, like, you know, he's been acting forever, so he knows what he's doing from a performance standpoint. But there's not a lot of like build up or understanding who he is, aside from just, you know, the big baddie and the one that is eventually going to be faced in the end. With Tong Po, on the other hand, they really go through some moments for you to really, really hate him and can't wait for him to get his comeuppance in the end, you know. He's connected to like this crime lord, Freddy, I remember his name is. And so you see him do some very, very shady things and some really bad things, you know, without, you know, giving away too many details. But, you know, once you see him do these things, you're like, all right, Van Damme's going to kick your ass, and I can't wait to see it. And so I like how they made it a little bit more different than Bloodsport, because there's so many similarities. You know, like the quality of the movie looks about the same. The color grading looks about the same. Montages, music even is very, very similar. But these little things here and there make it different. And if you haven't seen it, you're going to enjoy the dance scene. All right. Anyways, that's all I got for today. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Smash that like button, give me a follow, and I'll see you guys next time.